Let's talk about Dawnwalker. If you're into dark fantasy RPGs, and I mean the kind of games that leave you sitting there at 3 AM questioning your moral choices, this one is going to be right up your alley. It's the first project from Rebel Wolves, a studio led by, forgive me if I butcher the name, Konrad Tomaszkiewicz. Yes, The Witcher 3. The guy knows how to craft an epic world, and he's back with a vengeance and a thirst for more blood, guts and action. So let's get into it. Dawnwalker is set in this gritty, alternative 14th century Europe, in a place called Vale Sangora. Imagine the Carpathian Mountains, but cranks up with gothic energy. The world has fallen into chaos after vampires decided they'd had enough of living in the shadows. These aren't your sparkly vampires either. They're brutal, cunning, and absolutely ruthless. They've overthrown feudal lords and claimed the land as their own, turning the whole kingdom into their playground. Humanity? Yeah, they're kind of on the losing side right now, struggling to survive in the cracks and shadows. You step into the boots of Coen, a guy whose life gets turned completely upside down. He's transformed into what's called a Dawnwalker. Now here's where it gets really cool. Dawnwalkers aren't just standard vampires or humans. They're stuck in this horrific in-between state. Coen's been cursed and silver poisoning courses through his veins, slowly killing him while amplifying his vampiric powers. The catch? He's got 30 days and nights to make his choice. Save his family or track down the vampire that turned him, and go full on revenge mode. And yes, the clock is always ticking. Every decision you make pushes time forward, and there's no way to complete everything in one playthrough. That's right, this isn't your typical check every quest off the list RPG. Though I understand in RPG games time has sucked, but over on X, SEAL Team Rick asked, and I quote, "Does the 30 days and 30 nights limit exploration?" Which followed up with the Dawnwalker official account stating, and I quote, "No, it doesn't. The game itself doesn't have a hard time limit, and it doesn't require you to rush anything." So it's interesting to see how they'll tackle this aspect. Now let's talk about vampirism in this world, because it's a huge deal. Vampires here aren't just blood-drinking monsters. They're deeply tied to the world's lore and hierarchy. In Dawnwalker, becoming a vampire is a dark and twisted process, deeply rooted in the lore of Vale Sangora. It's not a casual bite and you're a vampire situation. It's far more deliberate, ritualistic, and horrifying. Here's what we know so far based on the information Rebel Wolves has shared. The transformation process, the blood pact. To create a new vampire, a blood pact must be formed. This involves the vampire willingly offering their own cursed blood to the human. This is not an impulsive decision, it's an act of dominance and control, as the vampire essentially marks the human as part of their lineage. The blood itself is a form of living corruption. Consuming it begins the transformation. The turning ritual. Simply drinking vampire blood won't fully turn someone. There's an actual ritual involved, often performed under the cover of night in the presence of other vampires. This ritual symbolises the death of the human self and the birth of the vampiric persona. It's said to involve ancient incantations, blood rites, and sometimes a willing sacrifice. The death and rebirth. Here's the grim part. The human must die to complete the transformation. The vampire blood halts the natural process of death, reanimating the body and twisting it into something new. The human soul is said to teeter on the edge, with some lore suggesting they lose a part of their humanity during this stage, making it a painful and mentally scarring process. The cost of vampirism. Vampirism isn't just a power-up, it's a curse. Those who are turned inherit the weaknesses of their vampire lineage, whether that's sensitivity to sunlight, an inability to cross running water, or an insatiable bloodlust. Additionally, the newly turned vampire must grapple with their waning humanity. Every time they feed, they risk losing more of their moral compass and succumbing to the primal instincts of the beast within. Hierarchy and control. New vampires are often bound to their creator, especially early on. This connection is both psychological and magical, making it nearly impossible for fledgling vampires to resist the will of their sire. Some vampires see their progeny as mere tools, while others view them as extensions of their power. The bond can last for decades, or even centuries, depending on the strength of the original bloodline. Coen's transformation as a Dawnwalker. Coen's story as a Dawnwalker is unique. He wasn't just turned into a regular vampire, Something went wrong during his transformation. The ritual was incomplete or interrupted, leaving him caught between life and undeath. This explains his silver poisoning, his cursed abilities, and his struggle to maintain humanity. His existence is both an anomaly and a tragedy, which makes him a threat to both humans and vampires alike. The transformation process in Dawnwalker highlights the dark, horrifying nature of vampirism, emphasizing that it's not just a gift of power, but a curse that comes with heavy consequences. Each vampire has unique traits based on their lineage, and the devs have teased that vampirism works almost like an evolutionary tree. That means different vampires will have different abilities and weaknesses, and their powers come with a price. For example, feeding on humans might make them stronger, but it could also drive them into a feral state if they overindulge. It's not just about survival, it's about balance, control, and the constant threat of losing yourself to the beast within. And Coen? He's walking that same tightrope. By day, he's more human, vulnerable, but also able to blend in with society, gather intel, or use his wits to survive. But at night, that's when the vampiric side takes over. He gains access to supernatural strength, speed, and other abilities, but those powers come with their own complications. It's not just a gameplay mechanic, it's a metaphor for Coen's struggle to hold on to his humanity. The world itself reacts to this duality too. NPCs might trust you during the day, but fear or shun you at night. Certain areas may be safer in daylight, while others might only reveal secrets under the moon. Speaking of the world, Vale Sangora is a living, breathing nightmare in the best way possible. Picture misty forests, crumbling castles, and villages where the air itself feels heavy with dread. The devs have said they're going for a narrative sandbox, which means there's no clear line between main quests and side quests. Everything you do feeds into the larger story. You might uncover a hidden cult worshipping vampires, or stumble upon an underground resistance movement trying to fight back. But every choice you make ripples through the world. Save one village from a vampire raid, you might draw the ire of their overlord. Leave them to their fate, that village could end up a ghost town the next time you pass through. And let's not forget the people behind this ambitious project. Rebel Wolves isn't just some indie startup. This team is packed with industry legends, including folks who worked on The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. Konrad Tomaskiewicz is leading the charge as game director, with Daniel Sadowski as design director, Jakub Szamalek handling the narrative, and Bartłomiej Gawo bringing the art direction to life. These are people who know how to create worlds that feel alive and stories that hit you right in the feels. They've also been super vocal about making this game the right way. No crunch, no burnout, just a creative team working at their best. It's honestly refreshing to hear a studio prioritize the well-being of their devs, especially when you see how ambitious this project is shaping up to be. Between the visuals, the lore, and the sheer ambition of this game, I'm already sold. So, what do you think? Are you ready to dive into the dark, brutal world of Dawnwalker? Let me know in the comments what excites you most. Coen's curse, the open world design, or maybe just the fact that we're getting a fresh take on vampires that's not all capes and cliches. Hit that like button if you're as hyped as I am, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on Dawnwalker and other epic RPGs.